Hello, Devin. Thank you for joining us today to share your experience about teaching English in China. It's nice to talk to you. So, I'll ask you a couple of questions if you don't mind, and we'll start with the one how did you decide to come to China and teach English, and why specifically China?
I chose China because I have a couple of friends that are over here already. I decided to kind of make a little bit of a change in my life. I was a global manager for a carrier, a cell phone carrier in the States, and kind of wanted something that was a little bit different. And
Mm-hmm.
I have the certification, so I was like, you know what? I think I'll do that. And then China, I have a couple friends that have been doing it for a few years now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it was just kind of an easy place to choose to go to.
Okay,
And
great.
I've been all over Europe and stuff like that. So I was like, it's a new place and sounds like a fun place. So
So you came there and you didn't have any experience in teaching, right?
no formal experience in teaching, but I ran training departments for our abroad centers. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of I had to have a CELTA certification for those,
Mm-hmm.
and so I had been teaching people different things, not English, but different things
Mm-hmm.
in training abroad. So I've worked in a few Asian countries like the Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
Japan.
Okay, great. And have you, when you actually were applying, did you choose a couple of companies? And if yes, why did you make a choice to work and live in China?
So I did actually choose a few companies and got replies back from all three. But what it ended up happening is um, Alexandria from your guys' company was just one of the nicer interviews that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And along with that, I felt like the benefits with this company were more laid out and more clear. In the fact that you guys would assist with certain things like apartment finding if the school couldn't help, or
Mm-hmm.
ensuring like debit cards and phone cards were all received in a timely manner, that kind of stuff. Because when you're foreign, it's one of those things that you don't really know where to go to find these different things.
Mm-hmm.
And then me having experience with, traveling with companies, it's just always so much easier if someone's there and knows what they're doing that works in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm a very, I guess you could say, punctual person. So
Mm-hmm.
like when I get an email from somebody, I make sure it's replied to, where I don't feel like that's a common thing in China. I feel like, people respond at their leisure, which is fine as well. I think that's a cultural difference. But you guys seem to have the quickest reply
Mm-hmm.
to any emails I sent.
Yeah, that's we do provide this full support for a foreigner to feel as comfortable as possible moving to China for 1 year. As for your experience when you arrived, what happened? Can you describe your first few days in China? What support was provided, and what were your impressions about China in the first place?
First impressions were pretty common Asian city, a lot of honking. The cars honk everywhere. That's a little bit of a difference, but in
Mm-hmm.
general, I mean, it was a cool city. The airport was vastly large. I felt like that probably was the longest
Mm-hmm.
area that I was in, trying to get out of the airport. um, but it was smooth, and I mean, I think his name is Jeff. The driver was there pretty
Mm-hmm.
much the moment I landed, so he was there before I was. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, throughout, I was in Beijing for a couple of days, and it was a large city, but cool to kind of explore. And Tommy kind of showed me around a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
we met with a few different people while I was there. And then, kind of the next day, he sent me on my way over
Mm-hmm.
here to Yongkang.
Okay. And can you describe your first week in the school? What is the process? What does the teaching look like for you? And if you enjoy it or not enjoy it, is it hard to teach in China?
I don't think so. I think that it's actually quite a bit easier to teach in China than what a lot of people think it'll be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the I think kids in any area kind of communicate the same. None of them really know what they want to say, and
Mm-hmm.
here it's just a matter of they'll talk to you, not understanding that you don't quite understand what they're saying. but you can kind of get the gist of what they're saying just by kind of reading their body language, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The first week here, I feel like it was kind of like a jump in kind of thing. This is a fairly newer school. It only opened in April.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going through quite a bit of, they're still under a little bit of construction on certain floors and
Mm-hmm.
other areas, and then still getting some of their grounding and their footing in, but they've kind of had almost a rapid growth. They're already at over 400 students in that amount of time, and right now they only have two Chinese teachers, and then now with me being here, two foreign teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of a busy, almost a jump right in, let's get you going. A lot of support from the other teachers, which was nice. With Scholastic, it's a very structured teaching program, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Scholastic kind of creates their shell of an outline of what they want you to teach. So it's kind of a by-the-book method, but you get to plan your entire lesson plan out of that shell. So I can kind of do whatever I want, whether it's, let's do onboard activities with this program,
Mm-hmm.
or let's go ahead and do some games and do things that are not including their program. So I think that that's been nice to kind of have that little bit of a backing. If I don't really know what I want to do, I can always just refer back to Scholastic's program.
Okay, great. As for cultural aspects, like you've been to Asia a lot and you have friends in China, but your personal experience, was there anything weird, awkward, or more of a cultural shock when you came to China, or something that is really noticeable difference between the United States culture and Chinese culture?
Yes, there's quite a few actually. The United States, we have a lot of different cultures, but at the same point, everything kind of assimilates into one. Whereas in China, it's, for me I'm one of the few, if not in Hong, the only American
Mm-hmm.
person. And there's a lot of like Russians and a lot of people that are still paler skinned, but in reality, I'm pretty much one of the few or only
Mm-hmm.
Americans here. And one of the main things is that you just have to be used to people looking at you. You have to be used to people. It's going to happen where people are going to take pictures of you while you're eating or while you're walking, or they're going to stop, they're going to touch your hair, or they're going to just kind of like stop and stare at you without even saying a word. They'll just stare, and then you can make eye contact back, and they'll just stare longer. So you have to be used to and okay with being a spectacle a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that everybody's been super nice and super kind, but it's a little bit of a shock for them. We're not from here, and they don't quite know exactly what we're doing or where we're going, that kind of stuff. And so,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the smaller cities like Kong, they don't see a ton of American people coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one is things take time here. In the States, we're very used to things being on our schedule. If we order something, we know when it leaves the facility, when it gets to us, when it's
Mm-hmm.
in the middle. We know everything about everything because we want to know. Here, you have to be okay with letting go of a little bit of that control. It's something that I'm very much learning. You just have to be okay with things taking time, and when you say you need something done, it could be tomorrow and it could be next week. You just don't know.
Nice. Yeah.
I had some closet doors and stuff installed in my house, and they told me that they'd be there on a Tuesday after I moved in, and they weren't there until last week. So I've been in my house for 3 weeks now, and they got there last week. So you just got to be okay with these things.
Yeah, true story. As for Chinese food, have you already tried some traditional dishes, and how do you like the Chinese food?
It wasn't really a shock me coming for Chinese food. I have tried quite a few. We have a very large Asian community in my state, so
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it I've had already, like the noodles, the soups, the hot pot. A lot of that I've already tried and had, and I love it. I think that I'm one of those people, I really like fresh ingredients and everything, and I think that here almost everything has fresh ingredients. You can watch like the mom and pop shops make the noodles in the
Mm-hmm.
kitchen and put them in the soup right then and there. So I really like it. I love Chinese food.
Great. Well, actually there are a few people who like Chinese food. Like I always ask, and people like, well, I try to cook by myself. This kind of stuff. So people do not usually go out trying this very spicy food or oily food. Well, every province has different cuisine, so yeah,
Yeah,
actually it's really interesting experience. As for, can you tell more
it
about
is.
your apartment and that you were provided with, and if you like it or not, what's there, and like if you enjoy staying in this apartment?
It's an apartment I have to get used to, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm slowly starting to kind of adjust to it. Um, you have to be okay with the fact that they don't really have heat in
Mm-hmm.
them
Yeah.
here. Um, so you have to get a heater if you get cold. The kitchen, bath, or not kitchen, but the bathroom, shower, everything all in one combo is a little different as well.
Mm-hmm.
The shower is just in the bathroom. There's no area for it specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just there, and you're good to go. So that part was a little different. And then the kitchens, they like fully close off, which is interesting to me because that's not something that happens in the States. But um, it's not bad. My apartment was not. The nice part is that my apartment was just recently renovated before I moved in, so it had all new tile, new closets, new kitchen stuff put in, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I would say for U.S. people, the main difference about kitchens is that the stoves in a lot of the apartments, at least here in Hong Kong, are like propane tank stoves. Like you actually have a gas tank on the
Yeah,
side
yeah,
in a
that's good.
cupboard.
As for the distance to school, like, is it far away? How do you usually commute to the school, actually?
Actually, I am a 1 minute walk, so I'm basically
Oh,
down the
great.
corner and across the street, and there I am. So I just walk to work, and it's
Nice.
not far at all. There's quite a bit of apartments around here, so it's pretty nice. I think that in really a lot of situations they
Mm-hmm.
are very close. But if they had to, the school here was nice enough. If they had to put me farther, they would have either gotten me a scooter or a pass to ride the transportation.
Mm-hmm. Great. As for the Chinese language, how do you get along with that so far? Have you learned any Chinese phrases or words, or how do you usually communicate outside of the school with Chinese people?
Google Translate. um, I have learned a few, not well, but I've learned them, and I'm learning as I go. I think that what a lot of people keep telling me is that it's going to take a little bit of time to learn it all, um, or even really be able to have a conversation. There are a few other teachers that I'm kind of friends with around here that said it took them almost a year to be
Mm-hmm.
able to say a few sentences, and so I do actually try to learn on my own as well. So I actually am starting a Chinese course on Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can try to learn a little bit more. Because I would like to actually be able to communicate without having to pull my phone out every time someone talks to me.
Okay, well, good luck with the Chinese language. Yeah, it's tough one, but I think after a year you can really handle it. So it's like you can at least understand what people say. But saying something by
Yeah.
yourself with the tones that you need not to mix them because the meaning is different. So that's the challenge.
Yeah.
As
We were talking the other day about fried rice. It's easy to mix up fried rice and effing rice, basically.
Yeah.
Because the way that they say them are similar, it's just the first few letters that are different.
Yeah. And as for your free time, how do you spend your free time outside of classes usually? Do you go out, and where exactly, and what do you enjoy doing in the city?
I do kind of go out a little bit. There are quite a few little shops around here. Like they have a lot of almost westernized, like bars
Mm-hmm.
type, just little nice clubs that you can go sit at that are quieter. I'm not really a party person, so
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of little places that you can go here. So I go to those. They have the nice part is that if you are in a city, whether it be a smaller city or a larger city, they all have some westernized restaurants. So there's like two places here. One's called La Vita and one's called Sicily. They're both Italian restaurants that have amazing food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I go to those. I've traveled to surrounding cities by the train, which the train system in China, by the way, for anybody coming from the States, because we don't have one at all. The train system is fabulous.
Yeah, indeed.
And so I've gone to EU, I've gone to Shanghai, and so the nice part about my location is I'm a couple hours from anything by train. So I
Great.
kind of go everywhere.
Well, the last question I have is your piece of advice for those who still consider coming to China or hesitate coming to China. What would be your recommendations to those who still don't know or might wonder about this country? Like, is it worth coming there, teaching English, or are there any any advice you could give?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the first thing that people have to do is just let go. They do have to just kind of say, I'll try it.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be for you, but a year goes by so quick as it is. So, and that's one of my main things when I travel. I'm always like, it goes by quick. If I don't like it, whatever. If I like it, well, that was a great experience. So just let go and take the jump if you're thinking about it and come over and do it. A lot of, I would say that what people hear about China is not exactly what's happening in China. It's a lot different than what I would say, like in America, we have a lot of news stories that play, but just make up your own opinion. It's really actually a nice place to come to, and the people are super kind. Like, I mean, I can drop a penny on the road outside and three people run to try to help me pick it up. It's everybody's kind. Everybody wants to help out. Everybody wants to talk to you if they can. And I'll be sitting in a restaurant and parents will bring their kids up and they'll be like, say hello, say hello. I mean, I think it's a great place. I think that it's a really nice place, and I'm happy that I took the jump. So I would say, I mean, if you're thinking about it, absolutely, just do it.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing this experience with our viewers. It was great to talk to you, and hope you enjoy and stay for more than 1 year. And probably you can change the city if you want. It's not a problem with our company. Thank you.
Yeah.